Hello, everyone. I am getting ready to start a hopefully brief video training for the Administration Code and Inclusion Code, which will be one of the two trainings that you will receive this year. The second training will be a face-to-face training toward the end of the year. But I am doing this training as part of the requirement because we have several state assessments that are given throughout the year, including Access, which is given to our students who are ESL. We also used to give the alternate assessment, but we no longer are giving that in our building. However, we still need to provide this training so that our students are receiving the proper accommodations so that they are prepared, so that they don't have any surprises when it comes time to give their state assessment. So I'm going to try to be brief, but I want to strongly encourage you to come see me if you have any questions throughout this, and at any point in the year with any part of testing or anything that you think might apply to a situation where kids need accommodations or something along those lines. So this is a two-part training. I may have to break this up into a few video segments. There will be some questions in between that you'll have to answer. I don't think you're allowed to click off this window and just listen to my voice. I think it might stop my video if you do that. Not completely sure. But you'll have to answer the questions, and then you'll have a paper signature sheet that I'll need you to also sign once you've completed the questions and scored 80% or higher. And so, like I said, I may have to break this up into a couple of video segments, and hopefully you won't have any questions as we go along. If you do, you can just ask. The administration code is first. This is just the regulation that we are given to just explain what proper testing procedures should be happening throughout the year to ensure that all students receive an equitable testing environment. Let's see if I can get my slideshow to advance here. I'm not going to go in depth with test security because that's something that we will go into in depth with toward the end of the year. But I will say that when that comes around, we take that very seriously. So I really am just trying to get you more acquainted with making sure students are receiving the accommodations that they are to be provided based on their IEP, their PSP, or their 504 plan. And the IEP would be something that you will receive from a resource teacher. The PSP would be a student who is an ESL student, who you would get that from one of your ESL teachers. And then a 504 would be a plan for a student who might have a medical condition, but they may not necessarily receive an instructor one-on-one. They may just need some accommodations, and Miss Lacey takes care of the 504 plans. And so all of those possibly would have some accommodations with those. And so we just want to make sure that students are receiving those throughout the year. So when we do the testing, we will keep all the materials secure and safe. We want to offer students encouragement throughout the year. I know that what you will do to motivate your students while you are teaching is going to look a lot different than maybe what it would look like during a testing situation, since you are not allowed to give any feedback during a state assessment, but you can do that obviously while you are teaching. Coaching and editing, that's not acceptable during a state assessment, but it is, of course, what you do every day as a teacher. You are coaching and editing and helping them become better at what they are doing. It is very important that you do provide the accommodations, and we'll go into more detail about what some of those accommodations are when we get to the inclusion code. If you do not understand or have a question about one of the accommodations, please see a resource teacher or a ESL teacher or Miss Lacey, because it is very important that the kids, we don't get, halfway through the year or even, a few months into the year and you realize that you haven't been providing a reader for a student who is supposed to have a reader, or you have been providing a scribe for a student who doesn't have a scribe. We don't want to set a student up to put them in a situation where they might not be successful because they haven't been getting what they need. Classroom materials throughout the year, you will have organizers and things like that posted in the classroom, and that's perfectly fine. You are not allowed to post those during state assessments, and we'll go over what is actually allowed on the walls during state assessment closer to time, but basically we cover everything. Calculators, I encourage you to have students begin to practice with those, and not just at the very end of the year, but also, from the beginning, to understand the function and how to use those and understand. So if you're a 3rd grade through 6th grade teacher and you don't have a classroom set of those, please let me know and we will look into that. I keep looking at my time up here because I can do 10 minutes at a time. I don't want it to cut me off. Electronic devices. This is talking about having test administrators be on devices. So if this isn't really so applicable to during the school year, but mostly during an assessment, we encourage you to not be on your cell phone or computer during testing session. And this is talking about the walls and bulletin boards that need to be covered during a state assessment. And the instruction that's happening throughout the year would be normal instruction, even during the testing window. A regular review is normal. We are not to provide a test, how to take a test session, just to teach kids how to take tests, but you can teach those test-taking strategies as you teach your content. So that would be acceptable. We do create good faith effort checklists that we encourage students to use, and that includes checking their work, using some of those organizers. We cannot require particular organizers, but we can encourage students to use those. And I will talk, if you are not familiar with some of the organizers that we use for writing, particularly CAPE and SPAT, I can talk to you more specifically about that. I have a PLC date scheduled for that as a quick review, but if you're new or need a refresher, please let me know because we can talk about those as well. An allegation would be an accusation that something was done inappropriately, either by a student or a teacher or a proctor during a test session, and it happens sometimes accidentally and sometimes intentionally, and we obviously want to avoid them. And so here are some examples. I haven't been reading everything off the slides, but if you have questions, you are welcome to pause the video as you go through and read in detail the slides that are here. And we're getting ready to go into the inclusion code. So I think this is a good place to take a break, and I will ask a couple of questions and then we'll get into the specifics of that.